Hey, how's it going? A little bit late to this one just because just life busy, but I want to go ahead and talk in spoiler detail about this movie, Civil War. It is a movie that I was not really looking forward to that much, but when I did think about it from time to time, it was always because it had that A24 status attached to it. The director, haven't really seen much of his work. I've never seen Annihilation. I've never seen Ex Machina. So this is kind of like my first introduction to his filmography, which is kind of ironic considering this is actually his last piece of film that I think he's going to ever produce. Maybe he might do other movies. Possibly people come out of retirement all the time, but from what I'm hearing, doesn't sound to be the case. But this movie, I'm just going to go ahead and say it right off the bat. When I left the movie theater, I was devastated by this film. I despised this movie. I was in one of the biggest fits I've ever seen myself experience from a movie. However, a couple of days later, because I wanted to take some time to process this film, I had the realization that this movie, it's not supposed to be some kind of political, whose side are you on kind of situation, or that the film doesn't take a certain side. And usually with movies, films, they take sides, and you like to see the perspective of the antagonist versus the protagonist, and you kind of see like their ideologies and their conflictions and their growth and how they combat those ideologies. And that's a huge reason why I love movies as an INFJ. I get so attached to these actors giving me these raw emotions and seeing how these characters are portrayed. I'm currently watching this anime called Freerun right now, and it's doing all of that, but on a much grander scale with character development and a character focus. That beep, by the way, was my oven. I'll be right back. But we aren't talking about Freerun, are we? We're talking about Civil War. And when I look at this movie with the scope that I've been watching this anime with, it changes almost my entire perspective of the movie. And I somewhat like it, probably about 50% more than what I did before, which was at like a staggering 0%. I just didn't like the movie that much. And the fact that it only, got bumped up to about 50%, it still makes me feel a little bit conflicted. And that whole confliction has to do with Kristen Dunst character and her relationship with the little girl. She's not little. I think she's like 20 something. The girl from Missouri. I'm from Missouri, and my whole theater was like, "Hey, Missouri!" And I'm like, "Why are we happy about this?" But no, I didn't like their relationship. I found them to be quite contrary to one another, which, you should like. But the younger woman, she just seemed so juvenile. And I realized that it's a part of her character. Look, I'm going to say a lot of pretty obvious things here, but I never found her character to be likable. I never got behind her. I never wanted to support her. I thought from the get-go that, yes, it's a bad idea to bring a girl into a young girl who's not even a professional into these situations that America is in, and that these journalists are pushing themselves into for the sake of their job and the ultimate risk of losing their life. But let's go ahead and fast forward to the end of the movie. We will be discussing spoilers from here on out. I guess we have kind of mentioned a few here and there already, but the end of the movie, we're jumping right into it. Kristen Dunst character, she dies. She dies, dude. And I didn't like it. I thought that it was a horrible choice because it feels like her character was just kind of getting started. Like she was trying to do something and she was kind of on the cusp of doing said thing, and then she gets shot like multiple times, and the little girl is just taking pictures of her while she's getting shot, falling over, which is funny because that's like the whole symbolic nature of the movie and what they've been doing the entirety of the movie. But now that it's happening to these journalists, it just kind of feels like, I don't know, it felt a little bit more personal. It felt a little bit more like the younger woman hated, I believe her name is Lee, something Lee, who hated Lee's character. And it felt just awful and icky and gross. But not only that, when I mentioned the whole free-run anime and my perspective on that and how I shifted that perspective to this movie, focusing more on their characters, I saw this again more as like a character study movie between these journalists who are just perpetually lying to each other and to themselves ultimately about whether or not they're okay with this, that they are risking their lives and that they see a whole lot of shit on a daily basis and that they're okay with constantly being just bludgeoned by all of this tragedy. It's something that just makes you think, like, how can you have so much resolve to push yourself through that? At some level, you have to be lying to yourself. And what I like about this ending is that you see the fear on Lee's character and how she is scared. She does not want to be in that situation. And the fact that she was so close to like the end, the finality of this battle of the Civil War where they capture the president and she wasn't able to be there for that and to have her moment, it felt like her character got stripped away in the most embarrassing way possible. It's kind of like if you're like on a playground and you're not as an adult, but as a kid, like back when you were a kid, you were on the playground and you just let one rip in front of the girl that you had a crush on in 6th grade. I may be pulling from some personal tragedies, but hey, it's just very, it's sad. It's sad. It's not fulfilling. It doesn't lead anywhere. It's not really talked about throughout the rest of the movie because there's only a couple more minutes left, and it focuses on the president situation. So, gosh, it's just I can't imagine someone imagines Lee's character arc ending on such a good note, and it's just, why are we telling this story? Other than, the Civil War and it being like an art house movie. And, let's just jump into that. So the main question is, did anyone care about Lee's death? Did anyone care about Lee's ultimate arc and it not concluding? It just kind of feels like there should have been more, or maybe for someone else to take on her story, at the very least, maybe that in the younger girl from Missouri, and then taking that on. But then she just kind of also puts on a facade and lies to herself and continues the tradition of lying to yourself to be okay with being in these situations. It's just tragic. It's tragic storytelling, and it's not something that I personally just jive with. I'm not a huge fan of that. But again, let's go back to that whole art house situation. I want to go into the Civil War aspects about this movie, taking sides, whatever. And just real quick, would it not have been super cool to release 2 versions of this movie? One being, I don't know, the WF side, and then one being like the president's side, like their perspectives, and then releasing both movies simultaneously, and then like whichever one got like the most ticket sales, they would win like the Civil War or something, technicalities. I don't know. I just thought that would be kind of a pretty cool, ingenious marketing tactic, just to have like 2 versions of the same movie out there. And it's something that A24 would do. I don't know. I think that would be kind of a cool just gimmick. It's just something fun, because this movie doesn't have a lot of fun attached to it. It's a beautiful movie for sure. It does focus on these deeper connections between characters, but it just lacks that emphasis of fun. It's serious all the time. And that is, again, the message. I am pointing out a lot of the obvious messages here, but it just feels like usually with a movie, they have a topic, like, I don't know, let's say something like with this Ministry of Ungentlemanly whatever with Henry Cavill, whatever that movie is. I watched it, by the way. I didn't like that one either. I enjoyed the premise, but point being is it focuses on World War, and then it has a specific message about it that it presents to the audience. Whereas in this movie, Civil War, the Civil War is kind of like the theme to that of the World War II movie I just mentioned. However, they don't also establish a side message or a connection about it. They're just like, hey, this is pretty bad, right? Right? Yes, it is. Nobody should ever be forced to be in these situations. And what's the point of the story? What's the point of the movie? What are you trying to get across to me? That they're just dying because they're lying to themselves and to each other as journalists? Is that the issue at hand? Because that is ultimately what I took at this while renegotiating with myself about the film, more so as a character study movie than anything else. And it's just, this movie is just ultimately a tragedy. And I can't support this movie as much as I want to, because there are some elements about this movie that are just incorporated by A24. And they also made this an events movie, that being a civil war in America during an election year. They have some balls, man. They have some balls to do that. And I think that is such great messaging, but with so much lead up to the movie, and that all what I just mentioned, backing up the movie, and then your film doesn't have a specific core message to it that I can take home with me, but it has many minor ones that don't even get capped off. I don't know. This is the ultimate I don't know movie. I don't know how to feel about this. And so that's why this review is a little bit different. Well, a lot bit different, but no, this movie, it's a hard pill to swallow, and there are so many scenes in here that are so similar to one another that just kind of minorly change a few situations just to make the stakes feel a lot different, even though as a viewer who has been paying attention to the story this whole time, every situation feels like they're just being placed in the same mood, the same mode. And when they come across, it's Kristen Dunst's husband. They got him to be in the movie, just haphazardly. I like that story. Look it up if you guys didn't know about that. It's very simple and stupid, but it's kind of funny. But that whole situation in that scene involving her husband, a different character, the army guy, obviously the racist guy, just shooting these people for no reason other than the fact that they are foreigners in America during a civil war. And just doing that in the first place is genuinely just like, even if like you really had like a good reason to, you don't do that. There's this thing, like with foreign policies, you should probably advise. And if they're soldiers, they should probably know a lot more about that than me, a civilian. So there's just like a lot of like weird red flags in this movie that they just try to up the ante, but it just, again, ultimately fails to do so, which is why I feel like with this movie, I'm like 50% there, 50% taken back, and I just can't get on board with this one, guys. Civil War was a total dud for me, but it just leads me to ask you guys the ultimate question. What did you guys think about this movie? The characters, where did it take you? How do you feel about the Civil War aspect? Do you think it's a good reflection on America as it is today? This movie has so much to it. It's like holding a mirror up to you, the viewer, and it's like reflecting society, and yet it doesn't add to it. It's very art house. It's like one of the most art house movies I've ever seen without a purpose. I don't understand the purpose. I don't like the movie, and I'm done talking about it. Thank you guys so much for watching my movie review / rant on A24's latest Civil War movie. I was anticipating this one slightly, again, just because of A24, but man, I feel like A24 definitely, they dropped it here. They make some great, wacky movies, but I would much rather watch Love Lies Bleeding probably 10 times over than this movie. And that's not a bad movie. That's actually a great movie. If you guys want to go check out a really good A24 movie with a solid message, some unique character connections, and some unique arcs, go check that movie out. It's way better than this one. This one, it's not going to be for everyone. It's going to be for people who, I don't want to say are like snobby and smart, but like the cinema snobs. This is definitely a cinema snob movie. And that's really all it is. It's kind of like the equivalent to Godzilla versus Kong. It's just a fun, dumb movie. Whereas this one is specifically for the snobby, snooty movie lovers, which I am not. I feel like I can be sometimes, but that's not my personality. That's not my agenda. I love characters. I love exploring character decisions and how that ultimately upgrades the plot throughout a movie. And that's kind of what I love about movies and how I ultimately view them, and which is why this one is just a dud to me. But again, let me know what you guys think, and if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a subscribe for more movie reviews. Leave a like as well. The engagement, comments, anything really truly does help grow the channel. I don't know how much longer we're gonna be talking about movies, by the way, or will we continue? I don't know. I feel like the channel has definitely hit a ceiling, and there will be some changes for sure. Whether they're good or bad, that's the nature of the beast. YouTube's a wild one. Otherwise, yeah, my name is Austin, and I'm gonna cut it off here. Thanks for watching. Take care.